Welcome to the God in Jesus Christ Ministries. I am your host, Pastor Michael M. Matthews. And today we're into our fourth series of The Fruit Has Increased. And this is on the book of Exodus. It's an 8-week series. And as we have done the first 3 weeks, we have talked about God's sovereignty, his trials, and the seasons. That was when after Joseph had died in Egypt and the other Pharaoh that was with Joseph had also died. Now we have a new Pharaoh, and God increased the Israelites in Egypt, and the Pharaoh was scared that they were growing in numbers, and he then put out a decree to kill all male children, and then we see in the second part of, on our second week, we see in Exodus, starting in chapter 2, verse 1, we see now the calling and the irony and the excuses. And this was dealing with Moses, when Moses now comes into play in Exodus. Moses has now come in. This is the birth of Moses, and he's coming to his people. His mother puts him in a basket to hide him. She hides him for at least 3 months. She can't hide him no more. She puts him in a basket, puts him in the Nile. His sister follows the basket and finds that Pharaoh's daughter has withdrawn Moses out of the water. That's how he came about his name, Moses. He's to draw out. So she called him Moses because she drew him out of the Nile. As most Indian, in most cultures, Indians, Africans, various cultures, your name had a specific meaning when they gave it to you. Your name had a very specific meaning. So the irony of this was that when Pharaoh's daughter pulled Moses out, Moses' sister came to her, asked her, do she want a maiden to nurse the child? She gave it, and it was Moses' own mother who nursed him in this. So he grew up in Pharaoh's house. He became prominent in Pharaoh. And then we see in the third week, we also see where Moses now, he finds his people fighting two Israelites fighting, two Hebrews fighting. Moses then goes and separates them. Well, I'm sorry. Let me backtrack. I'm a little ahead of myself. Moses finds an Egyptian beating on a Hebrew Israelite, and then he intervenes, winds up killing the Egyptian, and he hides the body. Then, like 2 days later, Moses, he sees two Hebrews fighting each other, two Hebrew Israelites fighting each other. And Moses then says to them, why are you fighting? Why are you hitting? Why y'all fighting? And they make a claim to him that, what are you going to do? You're going to kill us like you killed the Egyptian. So Moses feared that. He feared that Pharaoh would come after him. He then takes off. He finds himself in the land of Midian. He then finds himself in the land of Midian. And in the land of Midian, once again, this is still sovereignty of God, because this is all part of God's plans and his covering and the prize. So he finds himself in Midian. He comes across this well where he rests himself. Well, he doesn't really know it's a well at first. And then here comes the sheep herders, and then here comes Jethro, who is a priest in Midian. His daughters come. He has 7 daughters. His daughters come, and he scares off the sheep herders and gives Jethro's daughters, he fills the water, the trough, so the sheep, so their flock can drink water, and fills enough water for them. So Jethro brings him back into his household, and he comes in the household, and he stays there with Jethro, and he becomes a sheep herder like everybody else. And he marries one of his daughters, Zephra, if I'm not mistaken, was her name. And he has a son. He later has a son as well. Also, I may be a little ahead of myself, but he does have a son. Now Moses finds that he's with a burning bush. He's now seeing this burning bush, and the bush is not consumed with fire. The bush is not consumed with the fire. And he notices he's out there, herding his flock, and he notices over in the area there's a bush burning. So he goes to the bush, and he notices the bush is not consumed in fire. It's burning, but it's not the way we would see a bush burning. And he hears the Lord call to him, Moses, Moses, and Moses answers, "Here I am." And here I am, I think it says twice in the book, in the Bible. And God tells Moses, "Take off your shoes, because now you're upon holy ground." He takes off his shoes, and God lets him know that he's been hearing the people's cry. And he's telling him that you're going to go down to Egypt, and you're going to bring my people out so they can be with me, so they can serve me, and they can worship me in the wilderness. And Moses is now trying to evade this factor of making excuses. I can't talk eloquent. Who am I? I can't talk eloquent. And God lets him know that I will put my words in your mouth. You and your brother will go with you to Egypt to bring my people out. Then we come into the third week, which is the sovereignty, and we see the pride and power, and then we see the 10 plagues. Moses now goes to Egypt, tells the Pharaoh to let the people go. Pharaoh denies. And Moses, let me backtrack again. I skipped a part. Let me backtrack again. While Moses is with God, God tells him, "What is that you have in your hand?" He says it's a rod. Tells him, "Put the rod on the ground." Moses put the rod on the ground. Moses sets the rod on the ground. The rod turns into a snake. God tells Moses to grab the snake's tail, grab the back of the tail, grab his tail. He grabs its tail. The rod turns back into a rod. He says that's one sign. He tells him to take his hand, put his hand up into his breast, covers it, pulls it back out. Moses' hand is leopard. He's looking at it, and he puts it back in, pulls it back out. It's back to normal again. He said, that's your second sign. He says, but what if the people still don't believe? He tells them, you tell them, I am who I am, which means he would be whatever he wants to be. And then Moses now goes with him and Aaron. We come into week 3. We come into week 3. Moses is now with Aaron. They go to Pharaoh. They tell Pharaoh that the God of Abraham, the God of Jacob, and the God of Isaac, they want the Hebrews to be let go. Pharaoh then says he doesn't know your God, and who is your God? And Moses throws down the rod on the ground. The rod then turns into a serpent. Pharaoh calls over 2 of his magicians, and they drop down their rods, which their rods also turns into snakes. And then Moses' rod eats both of the Pharaoh's magician's rod. He picks Aaron grabs his back by the tail. It turns back into a rod. He says, you'll surely let my people go. He leaves. He comes back. He says it again. When he says it again, now it's the plagues. Now they have the plagues. Now, because his heart is hardened, Pharaoh's heart has been hardened. God now wants to show Pharaoh that he is God of all and has control over everything. His sovereignty is controlled over everything. So he sends 10 plagues. The first time Moses has come, the next time Moses has come, he turns the Nile River into blood. The Nile River into blood. So he turns the water into blood. Another time when he comes back, Pharaoh hard again, he gives him a plague of frogs. You have frogs falling from the sky. The next time he comes, he has ice. It's ice falling on the ground. Most of y'all will say it's hail, but this is ice, regular ice. So it's ice that's falling. After the ice, then he has the flies. You have flies flying around. So now you could imagine you done had all these things that already happened. You figured he would already turn around and give in. Doesn't give in. His heart is still hardened. He has the death of all livestock. So livestock is dead. That means there's no food. There's no food to eat. You don't want to eat something that just died. And then after that, he still, with his heart is hardened. They have boils. They are attacked with boils, a plague of boils. Now he hits them on another Sabbath. The seventh one will be hail. Then the next one will be locust. Locust eats up all your vegetables. You have your wheat and things, and it's eating up the plants and everything like that. So that is the next thing that happens. Then he puts them in darkness. So they're in darkness for a certain amount of time. Now, the last plague is the most important plague. This plague is the plague that will definitely let his people go. So Moses comes back to Pharaoh. He says, let my people go. Pharaoh still shakes his head. No, I'm not going to let them go because they're here to build my city. They're going to build my city. And he he kills the firstborn. So now God turns around and now he sends the angel of death. And this is the death to all firstborns. Because Pharaoh went also after Moses' son, his firstborn. So God went after Pharaoh's son. He went after their firstborns. So all firstborns were to be killed. And the only way the Hebrews would be protected from being any firstborn being protected was over the doorpost. They would put blood over the top of the doorpost and on the side of the doorpost, so that when death come, anybody that was inside those locations, death would just pass by. Now, these are the 10 plagues that were done to Pharaoh at that time. Now, for the fourth week, we're going to be in chapter 7, verse 1, all the way to chapter 12, 50, to verse 50. And in those, we're still talking about the sovereignty of God and the increase of the fruit. The fruit's increase. This is what the series is. But we're going to talk about the sovereignty of God, the power of God, and the sacred name that he carries. Now, in this book of Exodus, we see the power of God. His sacred name is on display. His sacred name is on display, and it demonstrates the superiority over all false gods. All false gods of Egypt through these 10 plagues. Through these 10 plagues, he has shown that The Egyptian gods cannot do nothing, cannot change nothing. Once he calls out for what he wants, when he called out for these plagues, these false gods could not turn back what he had already done. Um, the name of God is not just his title. It's not just a title, but a representation of his authority and his sovereignty over all other gods. So you may, even if you said they had more gods than any other gods, God was the superior. He was above all. God also reveals himself to Moses as I am who I am. A name that signifies his eternal presence and unchanging nature. As we see this, and he lets Moses, as we have said, he let Moses know that he was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And when you hear that statement, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, these were the three that God, when God talked to Abraham, God talked to Jacob, God talked to Abraham, and that Jacob was Abraham's son, and Abraham, God talked to Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac was the father of Jacob. Okay. All right. Now, we see also in this, where am I? Okay, his unchanging name. The sacred name sets him apart from the false gods of Egypt, who were powerless to stop the plagues that God sent unto the land. So through this, these false gods were not able to change nothing around. They were not able to destroy anything or reverse what God had put in play. They just couldn't do nothing. And Pharaoh later realized the ultimate with the last plague, which was the plague of the angel of death. He realized, this God, I can't fight. The 10 plagues were a direct challenge to the gods of Egypt. These 10 plagues were a direct challenge to these gods, each one targeting a specific deity that the Egyptians worshiped. So what God did was he attacked each and every one of their individual gods that represented various things. We have, as we said, when he turned the water into blood, that culminated for the god of the sea, as some people will say, and then you see where he has frogs that will also culminate to birth. This was representative for birth. Okay, worship. Okay. The Nile, worship the Nile as a source of life. The Nile River was a source of life for them. But God showed his power by turning it into blood, demonstrating that he alone has the power to give life, to give and take life. So he's showing them by turning the water into blood, he can give life and he can take life. As the plagues continue, the false gods of Egypt were shown to be powerless against the might of the one true God. So this, as more and more each one of these plagues came about to Egypt, it showed the false gods that they were powerless. They had no control over what God had, what He had in store, or what He can do to them. Mm. The plagues of frogs, um, and the plague of ice, the flies, the plague for the flies, target the god of he he um, Hekelt, um, and Kepardes. These were gods who who had power that He alone had control over all creation. So these Egyptian gods that they had, God had power over all of the creation, all creation. Also, the plague of the livestock, um, which we had the plague of the livestock. This disease struck at the heart of the Egyptians' economy. So when you want to cut off people's certain supplies, you cut off their way of source of making money or their source of way of living. This cut off their economy as they worship the god of Hathor, the god of Hathor, as the protector of cattle. This god of Hathor, he was their protector, but against God, the one true God, they could not be protected. The cattle was not protected. But God showed that He is the true protector of his people. He showed that He was the true protector of His people, and that no false god can stand against Him. So each time, with each plague, God lets him know, let each of these gods know, and the Egyptians, who the gods that they're worshiping is not as powerful as He is. And this is what he does. By him doing these plagues, He's letting each god know. He's attacking each god that they worship. So now He attacked their cattle, which their God who protects their cattle, He's not protect, their cattle's not protected. The God can't once again, the God can't reverse what He has done. Their God can't reverse what He has done. Only God can reverse it. And then we have the plague, which was about the ninth plague we have there. That was the plague of darkness, was a direct challenge to the sun god, Ra. So this was a direct challenge to the sun god, Ra, who was believed to be the most powerful of all the Egyptian gods. So we have the sun god, who is supposed to be the most powerful, but the God of, as I was going to say, the God of Isaac, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, showed that even your God, your sun God, Ra, could not control day or night. Now He put them in total darkness. This God could not change it back. So he was believed to be their God. But even Ra was powerless against the darkness that God had brought upon the land, showing that he alone is the true light of the world. So God showed the God of Ra that He is the true light of the world. and no other God could change anything. And here we come down now. We're coming down to the 10th plague, the very last plague that he had brought. Finally, the plague of death of the firstborn was a devastating blow to the Egyptians as their own children were taken from them. So this final plague that God had sent to the Egyptians, or sent to Egypt, was a direct blow to Pharaoh and the Egyptians, to let them know that your gods cannot protect you at all. He attacked the firstborn of each of the Egyptians, their firstborn, whoever their firstborn, whatever the firstborn was, they were going to be attacked. He was going to take them away. The plague showed that no false god can protect them from the judgment of the one true God, who has the power to bring life and death at his command. So this showed God, this sovereignty that God has, where he can bring life and take life. He's letting them know that you don't have no control. You don't have no basis of this control of what I can do. I can give you life. I can take life. You have your cattle. I can take your cattle's life. I can give your cattle's life. I can dry up your water. I can give you water. I can send down flies, all flies among you. I can send locusts to eat up all your vegetation. I can put you in darkness. I can send boils upon you. I can send the hail down on you. So this is what God is saying. And none of your gods can turn anything around. They can't reverse anything I do. Once I speak it, it's done. So anything at his command is automatically done. Through these 10 plagues, God demonstrates his power over the false gods of Egypt, and shows that his sacred name is above all others. So now God shows that when he speaks and his name is mentioned, I am who I am, or just God, any other God cannot address that, or whatever he puts into the universe, no other God can change it. So he's letting the Egyptians know that he is the one true God above all gods. So as we can reflect on this part of Exodus, this part where now the Egyptians are going to be the Egyptians are going to be getting ready to release the Hebrews out of Egypt. Excuse me. He's going to let them go. As we can reflect on this story, let us remember that God is the one true God, and that his power and authority are unmatched by any other. Let us worship him in spirit and in truth, knowing that he alone is worthy of our praise and adoration. Okay? So these plagues that he has sent down, we see the name of God, I am who I am. We see the 10 plagues that he sent. We see him challenging the Egyptian gods. We see him making it more stern against the Egyptian gods. We see him showing who he is, letting Moses know he's I am who I am. He is the ultimate, the Almighty, the Almighty God. There's no other God above Him, and this is what He is saying. And this is so far what Exodus, from the chapter we read, from Exodus 1 all the way now to chapter 12. This is what we have come to. We have now seen God with His putting into plan, putting in the plan where the Hebrews grow in numbers after Joseph had saved the Egyptians from the famine because of his dreams and everything. He was able to become a mighty person in Egypt along with the other Pharaoh. Now we see that Pharaoh dies, Joseph dies, a new Pharaoh comes in. He's getting nervous because the Hebrew Israelites, they're getting larger in numbers and growing more in numbers. So he has all of the Hebrew Israelites, firstborns, their male child's killed. Then we see the birth of Moses. We see Moses now living in the Pharaoh's house because he's now Pharaoh's son, so to speak, stepson. Then we see now Moses grows. He kills an Egyptian. He runs because two Hebrews realize he's the one who did the killing. He runs. He goes to Midian, where he now finds Jethro, who will now become his father-in-law. He then marries his daughter, Zipporah, and he goes off and finds the burning bush. God speaks to him. God gives him his calling or his command, and Moses and his brother goes out to now make sure that everything, that the challenge is in place, the challenge with God and the Pharaoh, to let the Pharaoh know that your gods cannot defeat me. I control everything. I have control over the creation. I have control over darkness and light. I have control over your livestock. I have control over your water. I have control over your vegetation. I can send locusts to eat up your vegetation. So this is what these 12 chapters all speak about. So now the next one will be our 5th week, which we will be in Exodus. The main thing, Exodus chapter 13 through 13:21 through 14 through chapter 14, 1 through 35, I believe. And then we are going to be also going into 16. You can read chapter 13, 14, and all the way through 16. Those 3 chapters you should be able to read. Chapter 13, 14, and 16, those chapters you read, because we're going to be talking about the provisions and the complaining. The provisions and the complaining. Because now they're going to be leaving Egypt. They've done left Egypt. They're on their way out of Egypt. So we're going to be talking about the provisions and the complaining. So we're going to be getting into that part for the 5th week. So that'll be the next week, which we will have the coming of this. So until then, please read Exodus chapter 13, 14, and 16, and we will see you then next Saturday. Until then, goodbye.